Hello, Vineet, and welcome to the last CTO Tech Talk of 2023.
Thank you very much, Joe. Absolutely, this has been a phenomenal year, and looking forward to talking a little bit about what has happened in the year and what is there to come in the next year and beyond.
Yeah, so let's start there. Let's kind of put a wrap on 2023. Couple questions. What have you seen this year as customers evaluate and adopt Gen AI?
Absolutely. I think the way I have seen and experienced speaking to hundreds of customers over the last few months is that the whole excitement started with ChatGPT, and everybody wanted to use ChatGPT or some kind of a avatar of ChatGPT in within their enterprise. Over time, and that time is such a short duration in today's world. I would say even in a matter of few weeks, the terminology that people were using, the use cases that people were talking about changed, right? Both due to the platform vendors, which were coming up with everything to do with generative AI, all the technologies and everything else, but also a clear realization that ChatGPT is a great example of what can be done by generative AI, but the power of the underlying technology and the platform is much more. As I've spoken to customers, right, this new phrase in the lingo this year that has got introduced, generative AI, right, was preceded by talking about large language models, talking about company names as OpenAI as the technology, and then of course everybody which matters in the industry, in the IT industry, started coming up with their own machine learning models, uh, LLM models with Google and Amazon and everybody else, and people are confused. And I think there are still probably people who are looking at, okay, how is this going to technology going to evolve? Two, three things that I've seen very focused in the last year that customers have realized and adapted to is that nothing is just going to be achieved by just using like a chat gpt, right? When I say nothing, it's probably a wrong phrase that many people may not agree. Of course, a lot of people use chat gpt to generate content that they have never sort of thought about it, do the dialogue and do the interaction. But the underlying technology, the gpt, the pre-trained models, and all the different variations of those, right, are enabling a capability in the IT industry that is going to fundamentally change the way we design, we architect, and we actually deploy and manage software solutions. That's my strong belief. What has happened is none of these LLMs or generative AI technologies can operate without data, right? Data is been an important element for the last many years, right? Everybody has talked about how data is the new oil, and managing data, everything around data, around governance, around security. How do you work with data? I strongly believe that generative AI technology has taken the usage of that data. How do you work with that data to the next level? Right, and probably next to next level, in my opinion. It has also highlighted how companies need to pay a lot of attention to the cleanliness of the data. The volume of data is one aspect, but the quality of the data is another aspect. And many CXOs, CDOs, CIOs always knew that and believed that. But now, when you're going to put generative AI solutions in the hand of users, right, there is a lot more uh, possibility and a risk of the issues with your data getting highlighted. And there have been enough examples of it. I'm not going to list them down in the last year where um, data, wrong data, right, used by a generative AI solution has caused some kind of issues for enterprises and companies. And of course, there are all sorts of guardrails and security that has been put together.
Garbage in, garbage out, right? Your output is only as good as the input, and if the data is a mess, you're going to get unsatisfactory results on the output.
You're absolutely right. That's such an old adage that we haven't heard in for a long time, but it's becoming more prominent in today's technologies of generative AI. When I have spoken to customers, one of the other topics of discussions has always been that this technology is great. We have seen lots of examples of it, but how do I use it, right? There has always been this confusion on, okay, how do I get started? What use cases are the most appropriate one? And believe me, there have been enough written out there. There have been enough guidance from all the big companies that talk about providing expertise. But I don't know how many of the companies out there even have expertise for more than a year, right? The technology came into the limelight at that level only a year back. So if somebody is claiming we have been doing generative AI for a few years, I think something to think about that. But coming back to it, so the customers are asking about how do I get started? What are the use cases that make sense, which will drive the biggest ROI for me? And the way I have spoken to them, the way I have looked at the technology evolve is there is one element around your underlying data structured, unstructured, all sorts of data, and you'll be building a lot of applications using that data. But when you use generative AI, you have to think a little differently about how the data is stored, managed, and secured around it. The second is, I strongly believe, and you will be hearing, I believe, a lot in the next few months about the entire change in the user experience of what users are used to, right? Interacting with digital solutions. I believe generative AI is again a very big catalyst and a enabler for the new user experience that of course always has been expanding every few years from the old green screen to the GUI that came in to the browser-based interface to the mobile-based interface and now a chat-based interface for most of those interactions. A big example of that new user experience is what you have seen from Microsoft as the Copilot. The Copilot that is already integrated with the most used software system in the world, the Microsoft Office platform, and of course, all the other softwares that are part of that suite around Teams, SharePoint, and every other thing else that information workers use day to day. Copilot is making that experience for the end user using generative AI a new reality. That experience, I believe, is as fundamental a shift as browser based interfaces were about 15, 20 years back. One other thing that I see overall is the similarity of generative AI from the last two, three big revolutions that we have seen in the IT industry, right? Starting from the GUI in the mid 90s to the cloud in the early part of this century to mobility in the last 10, 15 years, and now the generative AI. I see a lot of similarities between how generative AI platform technologies and everything around it is going to evolve, similar to how mobility came into the picture. And mobility came into the picture with the iPhone and right? The most common thing that was asked was, how many apps do you have? Which apps do you have? I don't think I have heard that for many years now. Nobody cares about how many apps or which apps do you have. People talk about what are you doing with those apps, right? How has your experience in working with different business entities, be it a bank or be it a shopping experience, or be it even some very very unique tourism related experiences using augmented reality and everything else that have changed and evolved because of the hardware and the devices and the apps that came into the picture, right? Nobody, at least in my thing, talks about, okay, what are the technologies available to develop those apps? Is there a debate between HTML5 versus native development, right? Those are gone, long gone. But I see a very similar debate and discussion happening at this point in time in generative AI. And I believe it'll happen for quite some time till the time the platform vendors right evolve their technologies and provide how you can build solutions using generative AI, right? Where you do not need to worry about what I call as the plumbing, what I call about as the wiring, right? When you buy a new house, you move into the house. Yes, you do all the inspection and everything else, that everything is fine, but you do not worry about how the plumbing has to be done, right? And that's the same thing that will happen. Today, you download a mobile app and install it, and within seconds, you start using it, right? Um, I see a lot of similar things happening. The large language models, or now the small language models, or all the capabilities of generative AI, I think are going to get encapsulated into what are ultimately going to be business solutions. Business solutions both for domain specific solutions and also very horizontal solutions like the Microsoft 365 Copilot that is going to certainly change and is already changing for many organizations the way they interact with their day-to-day applications and what levels of productivities are they able to achieve using generative AI technologies. One other thing that I've heard as I've spoken to customers over the last year is like any other technologies, there are concerns. There are concerns about the capabilities of the technologies and the things that are around those technologies, the peripheral aspects like security, performance, and then something that has been again a challenge from the cloud era is cost, right? Generative AI technologies, as many of the folks know, requires a huge amount of hardware and backend infrastructure to run, and thereby, even if it looks like that there are few cents for few tokens, when you start building applications, the cost could really bloat up, and it's not a very easy mechanism to calculate the cost. So there are technologies that are coming up on how to optimize those costs, how to manage your prompts, right? I've seen technologies around compacting your prompts, right? Managing those aspects that many companies are coming up with, and of course, customers are looking at those. Security has been a big topic of discussions over the last year. If you go on winwire.com, you will find I've done webinar on a very important Uber topic around responsible AI, on how Microsoft, as one of the leading platform vendors, has built uh, technologies that ensure that both the input that is provided by the user, the prompts, and the output that is provided by these black box LLM based technologies are secure, are unbiased, and taking care of a lot of aspects of securing the entire experience with a generative AI based solution. There has been discussions around performance, scale, as the usage of these technologies have evolved, the scaling aspect is going to be very important. While it is more of an IT infrastructure issue, the end users, of course, get impacted. And I believe the infrastructure team, along with the security team, along with the architects who need to design these solutions, right, have been talking about how do you ensure a scalable Gen AI based solution. Over the last year, one of the other aspects that has become very clear, and I strongly believe in that, is just using a generative AI technology is not the end, right? You have to use an architect and design an entire solution where generative AI plays a critical role as a part of the architecture of the solution. And that is very, very important and critical as you are basically starting to question the way applications have been designed and architected for the last 20 plus years, right? That is an important element where UI, UX, the technical architecture, the infrastructure, everybody has to rethink on how generative AI based technology is going to play a role in this entire design and architecture of a particular digital solution.
Any other thoughts on 2023 before we shift our attention to 2024?
Sure. I think one of the things that everybody is, of course, aware of is um, similar to the era of cloud and era of mobility. Um, every big platform vendor has some offering, some technology, something to do with generative AI. What I certainly see is while there are enough comparisons, while there are enough debates and bake-off discussions that keep on happening, the reality is after 10, 15 years of the cloud being there, we are in a multi-cloud world, right? And I strongly believe that the likes of Microsoft, Google, and Amazon being the three big players is going to happen in the case of generative AI also with different types of customer segments that they are targeting, with different types of capabilities that they are providing, right? And of course, there is going to be um, usage of multiple of these technologies, right, by customers in building their entire solution.
So now let's shift to 2024, Vineet. Where should CXOs be spending their time, budget, and energy in the new year?
I think you touched upon an important word, budget. That's one thing that we are going to see change in 2024. 2023, the whole generative AI came as a speeding train for most of the CXOs, and they had either not planned their initiatives around it, and certainly not many of the companies had budgeted for building solutions around those. That's one thing that you're going to see customers change is and are already planning for allocating budget towards both doing POCs, pilots, but also some actual solutions leveraging the generative AI technologies. Second aspect that I see customers in the coming year that are going to focus on is how to leverage all the various options of the technologies available out there. Right, there are similar to the mobility era. There are focuses on having catalogs of models so that you can pick and choose based upon capabilities, based upon other parameters like cost, right? So you can build solutions around those. Microsoft already has, as a part of their AI platform, the entire model catalog and lots of other guidance around how to leverage the best kind of machine learning models for the best solution. So you save cost, but you get the performance and the features that you're looking for. We are also going to see the Microsoft 365 Copilot becoming mainstream, and customers who have already invested into it or planning to expand onto it will realize that as it happened in the mobility era, when people started using mobile apps for their day to day activities, they started expecting and demanding that the same experience, the same kind of a feature functionalities available on their mobile devices for enterprise apps. I see a biggest change in the coming year is Copilot becoming mainstream for all sorts of enterprise apps and also products out there. I believe that is going to drive a new kind of a user experience and a new set of development approaches that are going to be critical to design a next generation of the intelligent apps.
Any industries you see taking a lead in this regard, or is it kind of a level playing field at this point?
Another thing in one of our customer segment is the product development companies, the ISVs, the independent software vendors. GitHub Copilot, and then of course different variations of those on the other platforms that Google has come up with, and others Apple has also come up with. I think has already been having a huge impact in the entire software development lifecycle. How from code generation to code testing to code deployment. Um, uh, I see that in the next year, that's going to again become mainstream. And it's again going to become part of every software development life cycle, right? It may take some time for people to adjust and adapt to it,
Right.
in my opinion, but the technology is already out there and it's going to only become better and become transparent to a developer or to a tester or even to a UI UX person on how do they use those, because tools like Visual Studio as the development platform will have it so very well integrated in their experience that it's just going to become another feature and not the novel experience that we talk about for the last few months, that you can generate code. Yes, that's going to be becoming mainstream, and that's going to drive a lot of product innovation, not only in terms of capabilities, but also how companies will be able to create newer features, newer capabilities at a much faster rate, with a lot more standardization, with a lot more documentation that has been an Achilles heels of many companies that documentations are not done. In the other industries, manufacturing, healthcare, I believe generative AI is already being used in various manners, or some variation of AI has been used. Generative AI, as it becomes more secure, platform vendors provide more security guardrails around it. There is a lot more confidence in its ability to generate content that people can depend upon. I think it will take a couple of more years for many customers out there to trust and believe in how generative AI is going to be useful in their day to day applications. But I do believe we are headed in that direction. That is certainly the direction that is going to be critical and important for each of the platform vendors to ensure, right? The whole hallucination that has been debated about in the last year, I believe, is going to be taken care. It will take time. Like any technology, there are going to be pitfalls, there are going to be newer challenges that will come up. But I believe over the next year or 2 years, those are the various focus areas that platform vendors are going to provide. In the year 2024, one of the big changes that I also see is when customers are going to be looking at generative AI technologies, right? They will stop dealing with lots of nuts and bolts of the underlying technologies, especially Microsoft, which has been a leading platform provider for uh, abstracting a lot of these capabilities that are there in the underlying platform, but how users use it, make it easier for them to use it. Tools like Prompt Flow, which are part of the Machine Learning Studio, the whole AI Studio as a tool that got released in the last few weeks, um, is going to enable end users to not worry about the lots of nuts and bolts of how to design and architect a solution. I believe that is only going to be enhanced in the development tools and the environments so that users can focus on, again, the business logic, the functionality, the user experience that they need to build, rather than worrying about the underlying nuts and bolts of how to design a prompt, how to worry about sending the prompt and processing the prompt. I think a lot of it is going to be abstracted by tools that are going to be provided by, especially by Microsoft as one of the leading vendors for generative AI technologies. I foresee that our customers and us using these tools to build the next generation of generative AI intelligent apps, which are going to be done faster, in a much more reliable manner, and of course, are going to have inherent security guardrails using, again, tools like content safety and things that are built in the platform itself, rather than trying to build everything on our own. One of the things about generative AI that I see in the coming year and months is that it's going to become invisible. What do I mean by that? Is it's going to be part and parcel of almost every digital solutions that we are going to use out there, be it on a device, be it on a desktop, be it even behind the scene. How generative AI is going to uh, become a part of our normal life, I believe the next generation is not even going to really care about it. Like today's generation doesn't think about how mobile apps work, how do they exchange data, right? That's what is going to happen onto generative AI. Is it's going to be part and parcel of our everyday's digital experiences, and I believe that's one of the best things that's going to happen. Is it's going to become invisible, but still providing the productivity and benefits to the humankind.